As of 2016, there are 11 countries that are currently not involved in a war or conflict. To put that into perspective, there are 195 countries in the world. That means that right now, over 90% of the planet is fighting each other. As of 2016, there are roughly 1 billion people worldwide who are homeless or lack adequate shelter. To put that into perspective, there are roughly 7 billion people in the world, which means that right now, over 15% of the people on Earth don't have a roof over their heads or a bed to sleep on. At a very young age, I began using the phrase, "I hate people." At a very young age, I began to see that if war, famine, pestilence, and disease could not be laid at the feet of humanity, then at the very least it was made worse by us. As I grew older, and I began watching the news and reading the paper and even just stepping outside and looking around, I quickly found that my thoughts were verified. We each have the desire to make a better life for ourselves, but are repelled from that goal by our short-sightedness. We don't see that we're all in the same boat, and though we all see the same hole in the side, we're each trying to design a more effective bucket while simultaneously keeping it only for ourselves. Even at a young age, I recognized this, and it horrified me. Children being abused, neglected, left floating in the wind like the burnt remnants of their parents' constitutions. Adults drowning so deep in the ocean of life that they confused a brown bottle for an underwater breathing apparatus. I was losing my faith in humanity before I'd ever opened up the scripture, turning on the TV and seeing people killing each other over how they should best love one another. It terrified me when I saw the boogeyman of poverty slowly reaching his cardboard fingers around more and more men and women on sidewalks, and what scared me about it was that as they thought they had no other choice, they'd reach over and pull them closer, trying to find shelter for just another night. But when I stopped just growing older and began to grow wiser, I learned the truth, that I was wrong. I sat at home in judgment, condemning humanity for the atrocities that they were committing on each other, but as I sat there, I was finally forced to ask myself, am I any better? William Shakespeare said, "A fool thinks himself to be wise, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool." And I was foolish to think that I was any better than those committing sins against their fellow man, just because I didn't have blood, bullets, heroin, or a condemning document in my hands. Edmund Burke said that all it takes for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing, and I was doing that very thing. But now I see that I do have a weapon. Perhaps it's not strong enough to pull the needles from veins and send mothers back to their children again, and maybe it's not concrete enough to stack stones atop one another and put a roof over their heads. It may not be long enough to reach into the depths of despair and replace that brown bottle with clean air, or magical enough to turn nuclear bombs into weapons of mass creation, but it is mine, and in its abstract nature, it is more effective than the absolution of nothing. My weapon is my voice. It is my words. It is my ability to stand up and say that I will not simply be another face in the crowd agreeing by not protesting. War and peace, life and death, choosing to curl a hand into a fist and press it into the face of a perceived enemy, or deciding to unfurl your fingers and turn that hit into a handshake. It all starts with a spark that turns into an idea that turns into words that turn into actions, and actions that go on to change the world. My voice may not be strong enough to stop a war, but it is more powerful than 1,000 bombs dropping on 1,000,000 innocent bystanders. It has more force per square inch than it takes to lift a bottle to your lips, light a lighter to the pipe, or pull a tourniquet to expose the veins. It can recite more words than there are miles between this parent and that child, words that have the undisputed resonance of 1,000 AK rounds being sent across enemy lines, that turn happy children into sad orphans, or take healthcare and welfare away from those men and women who covet Satan's cardboard fingers in an attempt to escape the night's cold air. I may not be the biggest, I may not be the strongest, but I have discovered that I have a voice, and that voice can shake buildings. It can stop pens in the hands of executives whose only goals and plans are to take oils from foreign lands, regardless of how many people they leave without roofs over their heads. If we do nothing, then we are no better. We are allowing the evils of this world to triumph. If we stand together, then perhaps we can create a wall that may support a roof over the heads of that 15%, or separate the 90% from fighting each other. But walls can be torn down. Walls can be blown apart or decay with time. But if we take our collective voices and we speak together, we sing together, we scream together, then we will create a vibration that can be felt across the world. We will create a sonic wave that will spread outward and travel around the globe, breaking down barriers, shattering walls, and bringing together anyone who can see our message, hear our message, feel our message. You are not powerless. You have a voice, so use it and speak with me. Show the world exactly how strong our words can be.